Hi guys, today I'm going to explain Azure Infra Admin interview questions and answers. This is very important questions and answers actually, the most asked questions here. I will explain one by one. After that, the last end of the last moment, I will explain the difference between AWS resources and Azure resources based on this requirement. Let's get started. Here, have you worked on data and AI before related to the Azure Infrastructure Admin? When the interviewer asks the same question, you have to reply yes. On the infrastructure side, I have worked on enabling and managing Azure data and AI services. My responsibilities included provisioning and securing Databricks Data Factory, Synapse, and storage accounts. Setting up networking, VNet injection, private endpoint, network security groups, firewall rules. Sorry. Implementing RBAC. RBAC means role-based access control, managed identities, key vault for secrets, ensuring monitoring using log analytics and Azure Monitor, supporting data pipeline from an infrastructure governance standpoint. Okay, this is actually for pipeline purpose. Here we have to use the Azure Data Factory. In AWS we have using Glue, right? Here we have to use the data factory and Synapse. See here actually data factory mostly it's a ETL tool, extract loading transformation and extract transformation and loading. Have you worked with the team data team using Databricks and Data Factory? Answer: I have collaborated closely with data engineering team and handled environment setup, dev, production, and QA. CI/CD deployment of Data Factory pipeline. See, already I told you, right? The glue is the ETL tool in AWS. Same in if we come to the Azure infrastructure side. Here we have to use the Data Factory. Databricks cluster configuration. Here auto scaling, node types, and VNet configuration. Integrating ADF. Integrating ADF, Azure Data Factory, and Databricks notebooks. Securing resources with private endpoints and key vault. Setting up monitoring dashboards for pipeline runs and cluster utilization. How do you have hands-on experience with app service plan and application gateway? App service plan created plans like basic, standard, premium, configure the scaling rules, integrated with the vignettes, manage deployment slots. Application gateway configure V2 SKU with web application firewall. Created a listeners backend pools, routing rules. Implemented path-based routing and SSL termination. Integrated with app services, Azure Kubernetes Service (AKS), and internal workloads. What component is used in application gateway for front-end routing and back-end traffic? The main components are listener. Listeners handles the front-end HTTP, HTTPS traffic. Back-end full server receiving traffic. Back-end full server receiving traffic. Routing rules. connect listeners and a backend. HTTP settings define how traffic reaches backend, port, protocol, and affinity. Path-based routing we use URL path base in routing rules. What is the first component you configure when you creating an application gateway? The first essential component is front-end configuration, public and private. Without listener cannot be created. Order is generally front-end IP configuration, back-end pool, listener, routing rule, HTTP settings. What is the listener in application gateway? What is its role? The listener is the entry point for the client request. Listener on specific host name, port, protocol, HTTPS. For HTTP listener, it uses the SSL certificates to terminate the TLS. Based on the routing rule, it forwards traffic to the backend pools. What is the deployment slot in app service? Deployment slots are zero downtime deployments. You have a staging, QA, and UAT slots. Deploy your app in the slot first, validate it, swap with the production. The swap preserves the warm instance, no downtime, used for blue-green deployment A/B testing. Do you work with the API management? Yes. My experience includes setting up API gateway for internal and external clients, configure products, script subscriptions, and API versioning, applying policies, rate limiting, JW2 validation, IP filtering, integrating with app services, log apps, and functions, using the developer portal, private API management with the VNet, and private endpoint. Do you manage cloud cost optimization Azure Advisor? Yes. Azure Advisor helps me with right sizing VMS, reserved instances, saving plans, recommendations, idle resources cleanup, storage tidying, cost anomaly detection. I regularly review cost management and advise for the optimization. If the resources exceeds the budget, how do you manage? I take the following actions. Configure the Azure budget alerts, email, Teams automations. Ideal high cost optimization for cost analysis. Apply the right sizing VMs, database, app services plans. Restrict the deployment using the Azure policy. Shut down, shut down dev test resources during off hours. What action do you take for cost control? Top cost optimization approaches. First thing is right size VMs. Azure reserved instance saving plans. Auto shutdown dev test environments. Scale to zero function container apps. Scale to zero functions container apps. Storage lifecycle policies. Remove the unattached disk public IPs. Use the B service bustable VMs. Use the spot VMs for non-critical workloads. Implement the Azure policy for governance. VM used for 2 years and needs a scaling. How do you control the cost? Reserved instance or saving plan 1 to 3 years commitment up to 72% saving. Moving to premium SSD VD. Premium SSD VD V2 for better performance. That's cost. Switching to the B series bustable VM if CPU spike are temporary. Using auto scaling with VM scale sets. Moving to the Azure Spot VM for workload that can tolerate the interruptions. Using Azure mounted to understand actual utilization before scaling. Have you worked with the component and container? Yes, I have worked with both. AKS Azure Component Service managed clusters, nodes, node pools, ingress controls, and auto scaling. Azure Container Apps serverless container hosting with the scale to zero. Yes, here Azure Container Service image push, pull scanning, image push and pull as well as scanning. CI/CD for container using GitHub Actions and Azure DevOps. Difference between Azure Container Apps and AKS. Okay, Azure Container Apps and AKS. Azure Container Apps fully serverless, no cluster management. AKS full control over the clusters nodes. Microservices event driven scale to zero. Enterprise workloads complex orchestration. Scaling KEDA based auto scale to zero. HPA horizontal pod autoscaler cluster autoscaler. Operational overhead very low. In AKS it's very high upgrades nodes and networking. Here very easy. In AKS there is a complex Kubernetes and expertise required. Cost pay per use, pay for nodes always running. Okay. Simple summary container apps, serverless container, simple and low cost. AKS is the fully Kubernetes cluster complex workloads. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is the okay. See, until here, these are all very important questions. You can go through and also you can check each and every interview questions. If not understand here, you can go and check in YouTube. Then you can check the different each and every question and answer differences, and also then you can understand more better. Um, in practical, you can understand more better. If you have any doubts, you can give a comment, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.